With a trained ML model saved in our Watson Studio project, it's easy to deploy it as a service, fronted with an API, and consume that model to make predictions. But first, let's take a quick look at our project dashboard. So now you can see we have 4 assets. I'm going to click on my Assets tab. We have our 2 data assets, our data flow that transformed one data asset into the next, and our employee attrition model that we just trained. So I'm going to go ahead and click on employee attrition. And here I can see that it was created using the predictive modeling Watson machine learning service. It was compared against 4 different classifiers, the binary classification problem. I can check out the evaluation, and I can see that it's 81% accurate when evaluated against our test data. And it was created on March 27th. Now, this model has not been deployed. So this model has been saved, but we want to deploy this model and front it as a web service. Thankfully, this is really easy to do in Watson Studio. All we have to do is go back to our model and select deployments, and we see that there has not yet been any deployment of this model made. So I'm going to just click on the Add Deployment button. And now I'm going to label it Employee Attrition Deployment. And click Save. So what this is doing is it's taking our employee attrition binary classification prediction model, and it's deploying it as a web service out on IBM Cloud. And as you can see here, this has already been deployed successfully as a web service. And I can go out and I can view the properties of this web service. It has a URL, a scoring URL. We have our model unique ID, a version ID, when it was last modified, that it was successfully deployed. What's really wonderful about Watson Studio is, again, I don't want to have to do any coding. So just to get started on how to call this web service, Watson Studio provides code for you. I'm a Python programmer, so I'm just going to go here and I'm going to click on the Python tab, and I'm going to copy all of this code over to my Visual Studio editor. And here in Visual Studio, I'm going to create a file called predict, py, and paste in all this code. Reading through here, I do need to grab some credentials from my Watson machine learning service that was created. And in order to do that, I'm going to flip back over to IBM Cloud, my dashboard on IBM Cloud. And again, this is in IBM Cloud, I click on the hamburger menu here on the left-hand side and click Dashboard. And this is going to show you all the services that we've created while evaluating the data, training the data, and deploying the data as a service. Again, we have our machine learning service, our Apache Spark service, our Watson Studio, and our cloud object storage. Now it's asking for my machine learning service credentials, so I'll just click here on my machine learning service. And then on service credentials. Now these credentials have already been created for me, and I could create multiple sets of credentials. I'm going to go here and just copy the credentials straight out of this JSON string, and then pop back over to my Visual Studio editor. Now it's looking for the URL, username, and password. I don't need this access key, and I don't need the instance. Okay, so now I have our Watson machine learning credentials saved here in my small Python application that we're going to use to call our predictive model deployed on IBM Cloud. Reading through here, it's doing some it's going through and getting a token, and it's asking to manually define and pass an array of values to be scored by our prediction model. So what is that? If I go back here and I look at my model, my employee attrition model, it has an input schema defined of age, business travel, daily rate, department, distance from home, and what those values are. They're either integers or strings in this particular case. And I believe you can see this here on the employee attrition deployment test tab as well, where I can go through and I can change different values. Say I was 35 years old, I travel rarely, this is my daily rate, I worked in development, distance from home is 1, I'm going to go ahead and hit predict. So it really doesn't know with the data I just input if I am at risk of leaving the company or not. But I have 2 data points from my test data that I want to pass along in my Python application calling my employee prediction web service. So let's scroll to the right here, and I can see that I am passing in fields of age, business travel, daily rate, department, etc., specifying what those fields are, and then values. I'm going to pass an array, 2 arrays, array of values to be scored for one person, and another array of values to be scored for a second person. Well, here on the side, I've already saved arrays of this data. I'm just going to paste those 2 arrays in. So arrays of values to be scored, a person that's 41, travels rarely, works in sales, has a degree in life sciences, or a person who's 49, travels frequently, and works in research and development. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then I'm going to run this predict.py Python application. And look at that, it gives me a whole bunch of output. And really what this is, it's this JSON string telling me the values that I passed to make the prediction, and then the actual predictions for each of the values passed as arrays. I also have some code here on the side that I use to make some sense of this JSON string that's being returned. And instead of just printing it out as is, I'm going to go ahead and extract valuable information from this JSON string, which the employee attrition, yes or no, that employee is at risk of leaving, a confidence score, or how confident are we if the employee is leaving or not, and the fields. These are the fields that we passed in for that particular employee. So I'm going to save this and then go here and run my prediction script one more time. And as you see here, it's a lot easier to read with just some simple parsing of the JSON object. So with our first employee, someone that is 41, travels rarely, and works in sales, we are 59% confident that they are at risk of leaving. However, for someone that is 49, travels frequently, and works in research and development, we are 98% sure that this person is not at risk of leaving. And that's it. So here over the past video lectures, you've gone through and you've learned how to use the Watson Studio platform to evaluate your data, build, train, evaluate, and deploy a machine learning model in production, and then call that machine learning model as a web service using Python, all without writing a single line of code yourself. Now, I know here in the end, we did use some Python code, but again, that code was generated for us by Watson Studio. And we didn't have to use the code. We could have just went here and tested against the web service itself. But as a developer, I actually want to call it from either Python or Java or Node in order to make my prediction. I hope you found these videos valuable for you and helped jumpstart your journey in data science and machine learning. Again, thank you for listening. I'm Justin McCoy, a developer advocate here at IBM, here to help you jumpstart your next product or project in data science, machine learning, or deep learning. And hey, let's build something interesting.